it is that consumerism is an example of how today's society lives better than our parents did and our grandparents. And he wants future generations to continue to have an increasingly better lifestyle.
These are beautiful. People are going to want to live here.
Bezos unveiled his extraterrestrial plans at a time of growing concern about the empire he's built here on Earth.
Amazon is the great disruptor, from books to retail to grocery stores.
For more than 25 years, Jeff Bezos has been disrupting and transforming almost every aspect of our modern lives.
Once you start connecting the dots, you see that Amazon is building all of the invisible infrastructure for our futures.
Amazon announced a healthcare partnership.
Amazon is helping the CIA build a secure cloud.
How much of the internet do you run?
It's a good question. It's a lot, though.
But in recent years, Amazon and Bezos have come under scrutiny for their aggressive tactics and expanding power.
Everything that is admirable about Amazon is also something that we should fear about it.
For the past year, we've been investigating how Jeff Bezos built his empire and at what cost.
And so think about this. Big things start small.
Jeff Bezos' empire has its roots not in Silicon Valley, but on Wall Street. That's where the young Princeton graduate went to work in the early 1990s at a secretive hedge fund called D.E. Shaw.
David Shaw was the one who revolutionized Wall Street by introducing data. And I think Jeff really embraced that idea that, hey, if you have data, ultimately you win.
One of the things that David Shaw asked Jeff Bezos to do was to go and investigate new businesses, and in particular this new thing in the early 90s called the World Wide Web.
We all know that a communications revolution is underway in this country.
What is the internet?
It's sort of the mother of all networks.
It's an information highway.
It's kind of like
you got a penalty for cutting the cord.
Bezos was quick to see the untapped potential of the new digital landscape and was determined to get in on it.
I came across the startling statistic that web usage was growing at 2,300% a year. So I decided I would try and find a business plan that made sense in the context of that growth. And I picked books as the first best product to sell online. Because books are incredibly unusual in one respect, and that is that there are more items in the book category than there are items in any other category by far. So when you have that many items, you literally build a store online that couldn't exist any other way.
The store he was imagining didn't exist, so he decided to build it himself.
The reaction to Jeff's idea to start selling books on the internet was pretty incredulous, from a lot of the people close to him. His mom tried to convince him to just do it at night or over the weekends. She didn't want to see him give up his job.
Jeff called and told me that he and Mackenzie were quitting their jobs and they were moving to Seattle and starting a company. I said, great, well, what are you going to do? He said, we're going to sell books. I said, nice. He said, on the internet. I said, oh. Jeff, why won't anybody buy anything from you? And he said, well, we're going to have more books than anybody else.
One of the first names Bezos considered for his new website was Relentless.com.
Why relentless?
Relentless meant we move on no matter what. He ultimately obviously decided that Relentless wasn't quite the right fit. Amazon, Earth's largest river, was. Amazon means gigantic.
In terms of relentlessness, stopping at nothing, is that an apt description of Jeff?
No. It's not that Jeff stops at nothing. It's that when Jeff sets his mind on a goal that he thinks he can achieve, he won't stop until he's proven wrong or until he achieves it.
Jeff and Mackenzie had rented a house in Bellevue, and then we moved to a small second-floor office in the south part of Seattle.
Phil Kappan was Amazon employee number 1 of 9 former Amazon insiders who agreed to talk on camera.
What the company is now was nowhere in my wildest imagination. Nowhere. So the fact that it could have the kind of position in the world that it has now, I had no clue.
In July 1995, Amazon.com went live.
It was an incredible novelty. It was tiny and obscure. And it's very hard to imagine that the entire universe that Amazon now dominates did not exist.
Amazon.com. This virtual shop claims to be the world's largest bookstore.
It didn't take long for Bezos' vision to prove prescient.
What makes us different is vast selection, convenience. We deliver right to the desktop. If our catalog were printed on paper, it would be the size of 7 New York City phone books.
The company quickly outgrew the garage and soon had more than 50 employees. In 1996, James Marcus applied to be number 55.
There was a very palpable excitement in the air at this place, and of course,
Slow down. You got a penalty.
at this point, Jeff
for cutting the
Bezos
cord.
was the first person to interview every prospective employee, so I was ushered into his office. He wanted to see how fast you were on your feet. He also always wanted to know your SAT scores.
You want to know your SAT score?
Every time, yes.
How old were you at the time?
I was 36 or 37.
This is the original sign that I made for Amazon.com. Blue spray paint on white poster board.
Jeff wasn't a figure out of folklore at that point. He was not the wealthiest man in the world.
Here's my computer, Amazon.com, up on the screen. Hello, Jeff Bezos.
He was a small, nondescript, sandy-haired man sitting at a desk with quite a large and eruptive laugh. But he wasn't threatening. He was a normal guy to a sort of amazing extent.
You cut that corner, and got a slow down penalty.
Very important. Hal and I share a birthday. We're both born on January 12th.
It relied on an enormous Napoleonic ambition.
One of the people I really like, Thomas Edison, here's a model of his original light bulb. He's famous for saying 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. It turns out ideas are the easy part. Execution is everything.
Domination was on Jeff's mind from the beginning. One of his sort of second-in-command people said to me, you have to understand that Jeff wants to sell many more things than books. And Jeff's idea is that in the near-distant future, you could buy a kayak from Amazon. And after you bought the kayak, you could figure out good places to kayak and buy travel services from Amazon. So those ambitions were very clear, and this was very early on. But he was clearly thinking those terms from the get-go.
How did that ring to you at the time?
A little bit exciting and a little bit nutty.
Amazon.com. Very good
Big
website.
cut the cord. You'll have to slow down and give up the time game.
If you signed on to work at a kind of futuristic bookstore, and the guy who owned it was suddenly talking about selling every object in the universe, you just weren't sure how seriously to take it.
Though his public image was often unserious,
That was awesome!
inside the company, Bezos was a hard-charging manager relentlessly focused on the principle that would make Amazon one of the most trusted brands in the world. The customer always comes first.
This culture of customer obsession, obsessive focus on customer, obsesses over our customers, totally obsessing over the customer experience.
We used to call it customer ecstasy. It means building, delivering, focusing on your customer. And we did it, in the very, very early days at every stage.
Jennifer Cast was there in the early days and is one of 6 top Amazon executives the company put forward to speak to us.
Customer obsession was our North Star. And so, it was a place where we knew we were a part of something that was new, the internet. There was an excitement that we were doing something that hadn't been done before. It was exhilarating. We were all aligned around building for customers.
Hey, you guys.
I've heard there was an empty chair that would often be put at meetings.
Yeah.
Who was in the empty chair?
Yeah, so that empty chair was there to remind us all to understand the customer, have empathy for the customer, understand the details of the customer experience. The customer isn't there. We have to bring forward the voice of the customer.
Thank you for calling Amazon.com.
And Bezos quickly learned that in this new online world, he could understand exactly how customers were behaving.
All orders do need to be placed online.
It was made clear from the beginning that data collection was also one of Amazon's businesses. All customer behavior that flowed through the site was recorded and tracked. And that itself is a valuable commodity.
Have you visited our website?
We could track how a customer navigated through the site. So we could see what you looked at. We could also see what you paused at. We could see what you put in your basket and didn't order. We could see what you put in your basket and did order. So that's when we started realizing, man, this is rich. This is rich, rich, rich. And so we've used it for everything.
What do you do with that information?
That's the data that allows us to predict or try to predict what books that you would like that you haven't discovered yet.
Bezos treated the site as a laboratory where he studied customer behavior along with his chief scientist, Andreas
They say
White.
you cut the cord. You'll have to slow down
I
and give
was
up the time
shocked
game.
to see how predictable people are. If you take the time of the day into account, if you take maybe when they were last on the site, how long they were on the site last time, how long they're on the site today, you know what we're filming for.
Whoever owns, collects the data, if you have access to it and rights to data, then you are king. It's all about the data. Everything.
One of the most fascinating kind of tools we have at our disposal is the ability to do active experiments. It's kind of this huge laboratory.
We did not think about it as exploiting. We thought about helping people make better decisions.
I was starting to feel that that was less respectful toward the consumer,
Slow
who was,
down.
after all,
You
supposed
got
to
a
be our
penalty?
god.
We're cutting the cord.
The person whose ecstasy was our very reason for being. And it was closer to getting a cow into a milking stall and extracting as many pills as possible during each visit. And that felt a little more unsavory. But that was the business of Amazon.
Amazon has added 880,000 new customers.
While Bezos was using these insights to bring more and more customers into Amazon,
The number of customers who use the website has increased fourfold.
there was one thing he hadn't done yet.
The company's never made a profit.
That's right.
Now, why? How does it? Why? How does that? Why?
Seems like a new math, doesn't it?
Bezos would spend years losing money trying to beat his competition. And he convinced investors to go along with it.
One of Jeff Bezos' greatest accomplishments has been his ability to get Wall Street to accept the fact that for 20-some years, Amazon wasn't going to be very profitable. And that's okay because they're building infrastructure that will create huge opportunities for them to gain scale, and gain customers, and gain business.
He spelled it out in a letter to shareholders after the company first went public. It's all about the long term, he wrote, rather than short-term profits or Wall Street reactions.
He essentially says we're going to forego profits in order to take market share. That our strategy is to lose money, which enables us then to put other companies out of business who can't afford to lose money.
That strategy wouldn't sit well with critics like Stacy Mitchell, who advocates for small businesses.
In essence, at the very beginning, he's signaling to shareholders, I have a strategy to monopolize the market, and that's going to reward you, but it's going to be far down the road. And will you come along with me? And they said yes.
Investors also recognized Bezos' essential advantage over physical stores, which had to charge their customers sales tax, unlike online businesses.
So not collecting sales tax gave Amazon a big leg up over bricks and mortar retailers. And that was central to their early strategy of gaining market share as quickly as they
Slow
can.
down. You got a penalty.
What booksellers were
Cutting the
saying to
cord.
me is that this is driving my customers to Amazon. They'll come into the store, they'll browse, they find what they want, but then they'll go buy it on Amazon because they can save that sales tax.
So it was a very irksome early big issue for the book vendors. First of all, they were kind of the canaries in the mine, so to speak, and then lots of other retailers.
Amazon has added thousands of warehouse workers and 3 million square feet of space.
Amazon's sales tax advantage would be central to its success as it expanded beyond books into other products.
And we have a fantastic selection of things you can look at. Electronics, and then of course toys. Yeah, thank you. Here is we've got the friendly Pokemon. This is more than 10 times the selection that you will find in a typical physical world software store.
But Bezos was still a long way from his goal of Amazon being the place where you could buy everything online. And he saw a way to achieve it.
Amazon could soon become the Walmart of the internet.
There were thousands of businesses eager to sell online. Bezos offered them a way to do it.
Amazon is transforming itself from an online bookstore to an online wall.
He transformed Amazon into a retail platform where anyone could sell their goods to his customers, and invited thousands of other businesses to be a part of it.
It's the easiest place for anybody, small or large, who wants to set up shop online, to sell online, because they can access our 12 million plus customers. Anybody, all comers.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of companies with literally tens of millions of products.
Name brand stores started selling on Bezos' platform, and so did tens of thousands of small entrepreneurs.
Everyone knew Amazon.com. The only people that knew SuperDuperHoops.com were the ones that were searching to buy a basketball hoop and saw our name on an advertisement. To us, it was really a no-brainer. We knew that we would, increase our sales. First year, we did 100,000. Next year, we did 1 million. We did 2 million, 4 million. We were doubling every year in the early days.
It was great for the companies, and even greater for Jeff Bezos.
Amazon has become the most recognizable name in e-commerce.
Not only would he take a cut of everything other businesses sold, he'd also keep his own store on the platform, competing against everyone else in the marketplace he owned and controlled.
He owns the main street. He has the main street real estate. Not just one building on a corner, the entire main street.
How Amazon would wield its power over the online marketplace would eventually become a question for government regulators. But early on, there were indications. The first to see them were book publishers.
Amazon took over a large market share of the publishing industry very, very fast. They were very quickly in a position to demand concessions. I think that was the moment where publishers started to realize, oh, wait a minute, they're our partner, but they now have the beginnings of a boot on our windpipe.
Inside the company, they had launched a strategy that some called the Gazelle Project, because they'd heard Bezos wanted them to pursue publishers the way a cheetah pursues a sickly gazelle.
Well, you don't go after the strongest. It's like the cheetah. The cheetah looks for the weak, looks for the sick, looks for the small. That's what you go for. So don't start with, number 1 publisher. Start with number 7 publisher, and then number 6 publisher. And by the time you get to number 3, 2, and 1, the noise has gotten back to them. They're going to know this is coming, and chances are you may be able to sell them without the full.
We were just this little mom and pop publishing company, publishing poetry books, translated fiction.
You cut that corner.
In the early
slow down
2000s,
penalty.
the number of books Dennis Johnson was selling on Amazon had been rising steadily. Then one day, he got a phone call.
Our distributor called us up to talk about our Amazon contract. And he said, I went out to dinner last night with Amazon. It was like going out to dinner with the Godfather. They want a kickback. That's the word he used, kickback. And he said they wanted 4% more of our sales.
Was that unusual?
in our experience, it was totally impressive. Yes.
Randy Miller ran the European book team and says he saw nothing wrong with Amazon's tough tactics to challenge publishers on prices and profit margins.
In order to bring them into line, we would actually take them out of automated merchandising, take their prices up to list price. We would put references on the product page, their product page, saying, you want it cheaper? You want this book on this topic for a way cheaper price? Click here. And we'd send them to whoever we thought their worst competitor was. That was how Amazon forced other vendors to comply. But that's an old Walmart trick. I mean, it wasn't like Amazon created that, and it made a difference. And Jeff kind of got excited.
When Dennis Johnson still refused to give in to Amazon's terms, he says the buy button on all Melville House books suddenly disappeared, making it impossible for customers to purchase them on Amazon.
I mean, this is the company that referred to little publishers like me as wounded gazelles, I believe. That's how they think. That's how we thought from the beginning. And we eventually had to pay what at the time I called a bribe. And our attitude toward Amazon was, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. And carry on as best you can.
Jeff Bezos may say that Amazon comes along and has given publishers like yourself access to a huge distribution channel for your books. Has Amazon been good for your business?
Well, absolutely they have. Any bookseller that sells our books is good for our business. So I'm not complaining that Amazon is selling our books. I'm just complaining of the way that their tactics are hurting the industry I love.
In addition to granting interviews, Amazon responded to written questions. Regarding Dennis Johnson's characterizations, it told us Amazon disagrees with this account.
Were you uncomfortable with that sort of ruthlessness ever?
Well, no, because I was in retail. I mean, people think that's ruthless. I've looked at some people at Amazon, that's kind of mean. And I'm like, a retailer and a supplier having a disagreement? Stop the presses. It happens all the time. I mean, you've got finite margin. Somebody's got to have to pay. And a lot of times Amazon wasn't the one to give it.
Kindle is a purpose-built reading device.
The tension between Amazon and book publishers would ramp up even further with the unveiling of the Kindle, which helped the industry transition to the digital age, but gave Amazon more power to set prices lower.
And new releases are only $9.99.
Around that time, Barry Lynn, an advocate for broad antitrust enforcement, was growing increasingly concerned by what he was hearing from publishers.
If the door was open, the publisher would say, hey, Amazon, they're just a terrific customer. They're our biggest customer. They buy the most books. They sell the most books. We love them. And you close the door and they say, Amazon is destroying our business model. You're destroying our business. They have way too much power. We must do something.
Lynn wanted publishers to speak up publicly and thought federal antitrust regulators might investigate whether Amazon was a monopoly, illegally abusing its market dominance in anti-competitive ways.
And they'd say, no way, I'm not going to talk about Amazon in public. I'm not talking about them on Capitol Hill. They will take retribution against me.
To which you responded,
well, that's why we have to do something about it.
Jennifer Cast ran Amazon's books division in its formative years.
We've had a difficult time in some ways getting publishers to talk to us on camera about Amazon. In part, it seems the reason is that they're afraid. How do you react to that publishers find it uncomfortable to talk about Amazon publicly?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I haven't been in your shoes. I'm sure they have. I mean, if you're saying that they don't talk negatively about us, I mean, I know they have a lot of good things to say about us. I don't know why they wouldn't speak their minds. We certainly value speaking our minds.
There is this well-known anecdote about cheetahs and gazelles, this gazelle program. Do you know about that?
I don't.
We've talked to former Amazonians about it, where Jeff had said we should basically try to negotiate with book publishers and try to get better terms and treat the smaller publishers as a cheetah would go after a wounded gazelle.
I didn't hear the cheetah and gazelle example, but what we were looking for was people that were willing to move away from the old model of bricks and mortar to a new model, which was, you know, a virtual store that had many different types of opportunities to present their books to customers.
I want to talk a little bit about how we think about innovation at Amazon.com.
Amazon would begin to accumulate even more power in 2005 when Bezos quietly rolled out a revolutionary new program, Amazon Prime.
Now they have something called the Prime Shipping Program, where for roughly
Amazon Prime,